All right. We are back with part seven of Did Tertullian Teach the Trinity? And thank you, Eric, for being here again. We're muddling our way through this. There's such a meaty doctrine, meaty document that we have to go through. There is just so much to unpack here, and today
Yeah,
we've got a lot of good stuff. So, welcome.
yeah, it, nice to be here again. And yes, it is Tertullian. It's just there's so much good stuff that is in it. And again, I know basically every single time we start a new episode, I basically redefine the Trinity. But it is always important to remind ourselves,
Hmm.
especially if it is remind ourselves what is the Trinity doctrine. Even if you forgot it, the Trinity says there's only one God in three distinct persons. They are co-equal, co-eternal, and consubstantial. The
Consubstantial.
consubstantial, yeah, consubstantial. I cannot say the word. Jesus is only subordinate in his human nature through the hypostasis. So this means that the three person they're not ontologically subordinate. They're only subordinate in terms of roles.
Hmm.
Just
Oh,
to keep
in human, not in the. He's not subordinate, even in role. He's not subordinate before the incarnation. So,
there are some Trinitarians, especially the Eastern Orthodox, would just say they're subordinate in role, because they would say that Jesus is begotten from the Father, but then again, they also falls into partialism and heresy, even though they say they are not.
we have gone over and basically we've debunked the idea that Tertullian ever taught the Trinity. I mean, it doesn't exist. So, where did this idea of the Trinity come from? Where did it exist throughout history? I mean, this is a good question here. We have Tertullian, who he taught some of these ideas and concepts, but we have scholar after scholar who says that you can't use the word concept fallacy. You can't just say, well, because Tertullian used these words, he believed the same concept of these words, because he didn't. So where did this come from, Eric? You have a kind of an answer for this.
The Council of Nicaea.
Yeah, but even
Eh,
before
well,
that.
actually, okay. The Gnostics, as we're about to see in an article, the Gnostics were the one who used the word homoousios. But but before we get into this article, it is important to understand the history of Gnosticism and Gnostics. A lot of people actually think that Gnostics only emerged after the first century, but Gnostics actually predate Christianity. You had the Jewish Gnostics that existed prior to the first century, and they had all kinds of the same kind of like concept of like demiurge, that the world, the material is completely evil, that kind of things. The they are also using the same kind of the two power doctrine that justifies Jesus. That shows the Jesus and the Father are two separate beings in the Old Testament, like by a lot of Palestinian scholar, as what Anna Siegel made in his book, the two powers of doctrine. You also had a counter belief, the Gnostics, that existed in Palestine, and actually, I'm forgetting where. And their doctrine actually tried to justify that Cain was right. The son of Cain were correct and they're not sinful, it was Abel who were in the wrong. And it is actually, and this chain of thought, the chain of thought, as I said, it existed prior of Christianity. When Christians started emerging in the first century, Gnostics was able to adapt itself. That's one thing about Gnostics is the ability to adapt to whatever doctrine fits its purpose. And there's multiple different groups of Gnostics. Like there's like Manichaean Gnostic, the Valentinian Gnostic. There's like multiple different groups, but they were all. But what is so powerful about these people is, as I said, they were able to attach to whatever doctrine to fit their ideology. And one of the things, theology, not ideology. One of the things that they started to adapt is the word homoousios, and and my friend Robert is going to bring out the article about where that homoousios originated. Which
Yeah. So
homoousios was a crucial word that was added to the Council of Nicaea in the
yes.
Nicene Creed, which is, and ever since there was multiple debates about it. It's created a whole mess.
So let's define Gnosticism
Oh,
and their beliefs.
and one thing about the Gnostics, the Bible, when it says, or in the First John 3, when it says, if Christ, if there's a spirit coming to you who says that Jesus did not come in the flesh, they are antichrist. They're referencing the
Mhm.
Gnostics because the Gnostics believed in the material world to be evil. There's nothing good in it, and that the spiritual realm is where the true divine stuff and your and we're- and our mentally flesh we have like this part device that's trying to go back to heaven, and there's also it those who are in the know or those who are being enlightened that they are part of that divine being or something like that. And
So
Jesus never came into the flesh. He only has a similar substance that looked like he had a flesh. He appeared as but did not really.
yeah. So if we look, there's several places, but John talks about this. He says, "I say this because many deceivers who do not acknowledge Jesus Christ as coming in the flesh have gone out into the world. Any such person is the deceiver and the antichrist." So here we have that this is Gnosticism, and Gnosticism basically says that, yeah, you're right, that the world is evil, that matter is evil, and that anything born or coming into this material form then is evil. And so Jesus, if he came in a material form, that would be evil. Infants are evil. I mean, what we're talking about here is total depravity,
Yep.
and the idea that Gnosticism, this material world, it's the exact same thing. Total depravity says, that you can't do anything good because you continually choose evil. So
Yep.
this is where Calvinism comes from.
Yes, and the link that connects Calvinism and, by the way, also the even Martin Luther also believed in that kind of philosophy, like determines the defense of the word, like evil and all that. It all stands to one person, Augustine.
Hmm.
Augustine, who lives in the fifth century, early fifth century, during his debate with Pelagius, he was a Manichaean Gnostic before he
It was a
became a
Manichaean
Christian.
Gnostic, yep, for 10 years.
Before he became a Christian, at first he fought against the Gnostics. But here's my point when I say that the Gnostics were able to kind of fit the theology to fit whatever like thing he needs to. Augustine used a lot of Gnostic theology, and then against his debate with Pelagius, and
Hmm.
bring this form of of deterministic soteriology into Christianity, where the concept of the original sin, where where we're basically like we're born and we're guilty of Adam's sin, which is the exact same thing as the Gnostics saying that we are guilty because of Adam. The world is evil, or that we're guilty of Adam's sin. The exact same concept, which of course the Reformation used Augustine to literally as the basis to create a Reformation.
Yep.
If it wasn't because of Augustine, Calvinism would never existed. Lutheranism would never existed. Arminian would never existed. This whole thing would have never existed.
Yeah, well, we see how apostasy entered into the church. I mean, this is, and so what does this have to do with, you know, the idea of
And
homoousios?
keep it in mind, for our listeners, the reason this is a clear evidence of apostasy is because, as Robert read in the second book of John, they will refer as the Antichrist.
Mm-hmm.
So if you bring Antichrist teaching as your doctrine, can you truly call yourself a Christian?
Very good point. Yeah. And so what we know is that a little bit further into Gnosticism is that we're evil. Everybody is, they believe that everybody is evil. Infants are evil, that you're born into this world and you're just disgusting, evil creatures. Okay. And the only people that were saved, so there's their goddess Achamoth, and Achamoth was the goddess of, or the mother of Jesus Christ. Okay. Or I'm sorry, not Jesus Christ, because they don't, the mother of the demiurge, the mother of the creator. So the demiurge, he is the creator of the world, but he didn't understand how to create the world, so he screwed it up, and he messed it up, and that's why we have this evil world. So Achamoth, his mother, when people are born, she sends what's called a divine seed into certain people. And this divine seed then will grow and bloom, and you will become spiritual. You're basically, you're chosen by Achamoth, uh, by this mother of the fallible demiurge. And demiurge means builder, by the way. So builder, because it can be both used disparagingly and it can be used creatively, like Jesus Christ was the demiurge as the builder of the earth. But this demiurge was a total screw up. And so his mom had to fix things. And she did that by basically placing a seed in you that if you had this seed, you became spiritual. If you didn't have this seed, you were destined to go to, be destroyed. Um, and so this concept, this idea, there was multiple beings within the Gnostic beliefs, and you don't have to believe in Christianity to believe this. This is the Gnostic doctrine, but they used this doctrine and brought Jesus Christ into it, as to make Christianity that he was the demiurge, and that he was the savior, but he just never came in flesh because flesh is evil.
And
So
I want to point out that your entire explanation, you can see you can also see the two power doctrine being at play here, because you have you have the divine realm that exists, while you have another while you have another being that is dealing with the demiurge basically screwing up, but because he does not have the authority of the actual true God, that's why everything is screwed up, that type of deal.
mhm.
So you can see this duality existing in their doctrine, and again, you can show is a way to, because the enemy Lucifer is trying to use to corrupt doctrine. It's like it sounds very similar than actual the two powers were saying that Jesus and the Father uh, basically Jesus has the authority of the Father because Jesus was granting to him. They're twisting it, they're saying that the reason that Jesus, that the demon screw up was because he was imperfect. So you kind of
Hmm.
see how doctrine is being twisted.
Yeah. So just to kind of go into a little bit more detail, to be saved, all you had to do was have faith. You just had to believe that you had that seed implanted in you, and if you knew that you had that seed implanted in you, then you became spiritual. You became a pneumatic. Pneuma is Greek for spirit, so you became spiritual. When you became a spiritual being, you broke out of the flesh, and you were saved. And it didn't matter what you did. You could do the most heinous crimes, and you were still saved. You couldn't do
Actually,
anything to lose your salvation. Once saved, always saved.
yeah,
This is where it comes from.
yeah. Fun fact about that. Is it actually depends on which Gnostic sect you're talking to. There's some sect that literally you, as you said, you can do the most deprived thing what you
Hmm.
can possibly do. And you can literally like be as sinful as you can possibly be, but you still be safe. There's also the
They would
other.
say, oh, just they would describe it as gold. They would say that you could take a coin of gold, and no matter what you did to it, you could muddy it, you could get it dirty, it's still gold, and it still shines like gold. You can't change the gold. So that's like their salvation. Their salvation was like gold.
Yeah. So again, for them is works is not needed. Blah blah blah.
Hmm.
There are some other groups of Gnostics who are the opposite end, who are like they had to be absolutely perfect on everything that they do.
Okay. Well,
They, uh, but it just shows how uh, how they were not unified.
I think what you're talking about is the animal, because the Gnostics had three groups of people. There were the spiritual, there were the pneumatics. The pneumatics were those who were saved, and then there was the animal. The animal were the physics. They were the physics. So the physics or the animal, because physic it meant um, material or animal. No, hyle means material. So anyway, the animal though, that they had to work for it. They had to do whatever they needed to do. They had to be baptized. They had to follow the commandments, and they had to do all these things in order for them to be saved. So I think that's who you're probably
I don't know,
referring to.
maybe because I just remember reading in the dictionary of the early Christian by David Berceau. At one point, they were talking. They were talking about some Gnostics. They were they were criticized to be too perfect. They're as what Protestant martyrs they would say they're working out their own salvation type of thing. They try
That
to
that
be
would be the physics. The physics, kind of like what we spell physics today, uh, but it's in Greek, and that was the animal where they had to work out their own salvation, and they had to be perfect in order to do that, or they couldn't be saved. So this was all Gnosticism. And then the
I see.
hylics, the hyle means matter or material or the material world. The hylics are those who were totally depraved. That they're the reprobates who there's no chance for them. They're just you know they're that way because that's the way they are. Animal. So you have spiritual, right? You have a spirit that kind of guides you. The animals don't have the ability to really choose. They don't have free will, and so the animals they can choose like to do which food to eat, uh, and they're basic. They have basic instincts, and so the animals had basic instincts where you knew that you had to do right, good things, and do the right. and then you could be saved. So that was the physics. So the three tiers were the spiritual, the pneumatics, the physics, and then the hylics. And the hylics, of course, like I said, they didn't have a chance. But so anyway, so why are we talking about the Gnostics? Why is this so important? Well, here's where we get into where did homoousios come from? And I pulled up the pneumatics. So there's Pier Franco Beatrice. He's a scholar in Italy, and he tells us where homoousios came from. And he says that homoousios is one of the most important words in the Christian theological vocabulary, since it was used at the Council of Nicaea to express the divine consubstantiality of the Father with the Son. However, long and complicated debates have not yet produced any significant agreement among scholars concerning its origin and meaning. So he finds out that's what this article is about. He says that according to Eusebius of Caesarea, the word homoousios was inserted in the Nicene Creed solely by the personal order of Constantine, and that is true. So let's read. Getting ahead of myself here. So this is Constantine. This is Eusebius. He's there at the Council of Nicaea, right? And he is trying to explain why he, who doesn't like this term homoousios, he's trying to explain, well, I was basically forced to because the emperor ordered me to. He says, Constantine ordered perikeleieto. Perikeleieto is an order from a superior officer. It is an order from a king. You don't disobey this order. Constantine ordered the insertion of that single word homoousios, an expression which the emperor himself explained as not indicating corporeal affections or properties. What does this sound like? He does not have corporeal affections or properties. God is this mass.
A mass, like immaterial, without body, shape, or form.
Yeah, without body, shape, or form, without body parts or passions. So Constantine is teaching this. The emperor himself is explaining his idea of God. And so he says, and consequently, the Son did not subsist from the Father either by division or abscission. He's basically saying that this blob up in the universe, you can't separate out the Son from this blob. This blob exists, and it's everywhere. So the Son is part of this blob. All right,
which goes back to modalism, where basically they basically said there's like one God in three persons, but but it's a mode or whatever. But again,
he's just a different mode of this blob. Yeah, this great big blob in the sky. For said he, again, this is Constantine, and he's teaching the bishops, and he's ordering them to insert homoousios, right? This is for said he, a nature which is immaterial and incorporeal cannot possibly be subject to any corporeal affection. In other words, you can't. This blob that's in the universe, in the sky, you can't use any words to describe this blob. That's just not possible. He says, hence, our conceptions of such things can only be in divine and mysterious terms. This is why they always revert to God is a mystery. You can't understand God because he's this blob, right? And he's this divine blob that he's up there ruling the universe. In fact, he's outside the universe because he's not within time and space. So he's kind of like this It's kind of like the Matrix, that we're in the Matrix here, and he's the programmer of the Matrix, and so everything that he does is part of the Matrix, right? Which is why one of the reasons why the Matrix was so well received is because that's how so many people understand God. So it's kind of interesting. He says, so Eusebius continues. This is Eusebius, his letter to his church. And he says, such was the philosophical view of the subject taken by our most wise and pious sovereign. And the bishops, on this account of the word homoousios, drew up this formula of faith. And then this is what, then he quotes the actual Nicene Creed, the Nicene Creed that was created in 325. So we have.
Oh, wait.
Yeah.
I'm having a hard time. Your analogy with the Matrix. Okay, I'm not okay. You're saying that the Matrix is kind of like a representation, like it's kind of representation of God, the Trinity God. I'm not saying how. Where are you getting that argument from?
Okay, wait. Can you repeat your claim? What your question?
Okay, you just made the argument that the reason that the Matrix was so well received, the movie, was because it's something along the line of is kind of a reflection of the Trinity doctrine. And I'm like, wait, what?
Oh, okay. So the Matrix says that the programmer is outside time and space. That we're in the Matrix, right? It's basically this simulation that we're in.
Yeah.
Everything feels real to us, but it's not really real to us. That we're actually living. Our bodies are living outside the Matrix, and they're being used to power the AI the AI robots.
Yeah.
Okay. So the Matrix then is this simulation. God is outside the Matrix. He's the programmer of the Matrix. But you can send an avatar. You can send your avatar into the Matrix, and you can enter into the Matrix.
Okay,
right?
I see where you're coming from.
So the avatar then becomes Jesus Christ. He was born into time and space. He was born into the material world that we have. He was born into this real simulation that we're in, and so that's basically the Trinity when you think about it, and the idea that you can't understand God because he's outside time and space. We can't understand the programmer because he exists beyond what simulation we're in. He exists beyond the we're just basically ones and zeros in this world, powering the AI programmer.
Yeah.
So
Okay.
okay.
I know. Going back a little bit with the Gnostics thing about like the demonization, like an expression around all that. The idea of Gnostics is actually very prevalent in our culture because I was watching the DLC of the Elden Ring game, and they were talking about the lore of it, where they're talking about the final boss. Basically, you discover what it meant to be a god in this universe, which was to shedding your physical form, and you become the spiritual creature that is in the elevated space. That is that you ascended to a new plane of existence. And I'm finding that a lot of today's media will have that kind of concept where this immaterial realm, where you have this this higher being that is far more powerful, like in Warhammer 40K universe. But also doesn't know it is a sci-fi that takes place 40,000 years in the future. There's something called the War. in a world with just like the four chaos gods, like basically this their ideas, they're like immaterial, but they're able to impact the material world.
Okay.
I'm
Yeah.
I'm not going to get into what is the physical of the four chaos gods, but the point I'm making, you still have the idea that if you shed your physical body, you're a far more powerful creature than if you had your physical body. I just
Yeah. There's a lot of these motifs because that's the way people view God, and this is the way
yeah.
Constantine viewed God, right? So this is why it makes this statement so damning. Is because where did Constantine get it? Where did Constantine get this word homoousios? And the the article that I was pulling up, it says, surprising though it may seem, there is total agreement among scholars on at least one point. Remember, he says that there's a lot of debate going on about where homoousios is. He says all with all these scholars, without exception, agree in claiming that the Gnostics were the first theologians to use the word homoousios, or that at least before the Gnostics, there is no trace of its existence. The Gnostics believed in a homoousios God. Their demiurge, their Achamoth, they were all basically part of this homoousios, same substance, uh, same being, same existence, just different
It is
modes of this existence.
in a sense it also explains when they say that we have the spark of the divine in us, and that this spark tries to go back to its original source.
Mm-hmm.
Then when it escapes our flesh, this spark goes back to the divine world where you have the original God.
Yep. Yeah, that's kind of what it is. We're just beings. We're trying to go back to the original source, and it's just this blob in the sky. He's just this immaterial thing up there, and it's this mass. It's a mass noun mass thing that exists up there, and that Jesus is basically, he's this manifestation. That's all he is. He's this manifestation, and he's the same. He puts on this flesh. He puts on this or he puts on this hypostasis here. So he's his own separate hypostasis, but he's still part of the mass of God. Who's got the mind, and he controls everything that the Son does. So
Yeah.
that's where this comes from. It comes straight out of Gnosticism, this heresy, this heretical Gnosticism that John calls the Antichrist.
And there's also the in the third century, I think it was the council that rejected the word homoousios as being deemed to be too foreign from scripture,
Mm-hmm.
which also begs the question: did the modalists actually use the word homoousios in their doctrine?
Yes, they did. Yes, Paul of Samosata, who was condemned as a Sabellian. He was condemned in three councils of Antioch in 360s or in 268 AD. There's three separate years, and they debated, and they actually they condemned him because he was using this word homoousios. And this idea homoousios, the meaning doesn't change. People want to claim, today especially, they want to get away from this. They want to say, well, the meaning changed over, between the Sabellians and the modalists. The meaning changed between them and Nicaea, and later, after. No, and in fact, if you read uh, this document here, uh, it, it goes to show, hey, that it came straight out of Hellenism, and actually he traces it even further to the Egyptian language, Egyptian paganism. And Egyptian paganism had nothing to do with Christianity. And he says here, having once excluded any relationship of the Nicene homoousios with the Christian tradition, in other words, that it doesn't exist within Christianity, it becomes legitimate to propose a new explanation based on the analysis of two pagan documents which have so far have never been taken into account. The main thesis of this paper is that homoousios came straight from Constantine's Hermetic background, not Christianity. It came from Constantine's Hermetic background, as can clearly be seen in Poimandres, and even more clearly in an inscription mentioned exclusively in Theosophia. In the theological language of Egyptian paganism, the word homoousios meant that the Nous Father and the Logos Son, who were two distinct beings, share the same perfection and divine nature. Wow. And he goes on to show, how this happened. And he says that it did not come from Hosius. They claim that, Hosius is the one that did it. No, Hosius was he was against even the word homoousios. That's a hard word to say. Homoousios, with the I. That when you hear the word or the phrase, it doesn't make one iota of difference. When you add the I in between homo and ousia, it makes homoousia, and that says that they are similar in nature. They are not the same nature, and so there's a vast difference. And this was debated. It was a really big issue in the 4th century, in the 300s AD, where they were arguing back and forth between homoousios and homoiousios with the iota. And so getting back to this point is that Hosius, who was there at Nicaea, he was against homoiousia because it didn't exist in Scripture. So why would he introduce homoousios without the I? Why would he introduce that if he was against the homoiousia? It doesn't make sense. He said that he said that homoiousia doesn't exist in Scripture, therefore I don't want to believe in it. So why would he introduce homoousia that doesn't exist in Scripture either? He wouldn't. It didn't come from him. It came from Constantine. It came from Constantine's background. It came from the Gnostics. It came from the Egyptian pagans. This is where it originated from. It did not exist within Christianity.
Yeah. And I want to point something out. I know you say they want to debate the what it means, homoousios, the definition of it. But because in the quote that you said, you said there is like two beings share the same substance. I just want to point out the way they're defining two beings is like they're trying to say that yes, they actually share the same will in their divinity, but they're still somehow two separate beings, which makes no sense.
Right.
Because Tertullian will argue that no, you have to have your own separate will and mind, which is something we keep saying. And Gregory and Nyssa also argue, no, you cannot have two separate wills, or if you have the same will, but you cannot have two separate beings because you have to have two separate wills in order to have two separate beings. I just want to briefly touch that.
Well, and see, now you can understand where if God is this blob, you can't have a mind, a separate mind within the mind of the blob. The blob is the mind, right?
Yeah.
So if you have a separate blob, or if you're making a separate blob from each having their own mind, then you have two gods, and you have this is the problem. This is what they're facing. This is why Tertullian takes such great care to say that Jesus had his own form. He had his own garb. He's had his own body of some kind.
Yeah.
We
It,
don't know what kind of
it,
body.
it, you could always say that Jesus is only a portion of the Father's divinity, not the whole substance. That's why the whole analogy of the sons and the rays is so devastating of the Trinity, because the rays is not the full Son. The
A ray
the
is not the blob.
yeah,
The blob is the
the
blob, and
the the stream coming out of the fountain. Guess what? The stream is not the fountain.
mm-hmm.
So when Trinitarian that says that they share the full essence of the Father, they're not only referring the Son, they're referencing the fountain, they're referencing the tree. They like the one aspect of the whole thing. Not they don't talk about the race or anything like that. Those things will completely contradict the whole theology. That is why in the Athanasius Creed, it literally emphasized that Jesus is not does not have a portion. It's not just only a portion of the Father. It's like the full essence of the Father. But at
Mm-hmm.
the same time, it's not the Father. Blah 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 blah. They try to play this word game going back and forth. But at the end of the day, the fact that in this specific quote, they talk about that you have to share the full blob or like mass. That in itself, if you don't consider about the Holy Two Beings, all of that, Tertullian refused this idea that Jesus was a full mass, which again, he cannot be supporting. He was a Trinitarian as we think about it. And by the way, this is the exact same thing that any other church fathers, like I know some Trinitarians loves to quote um, Hippolytus of Rome.
Hippolytus.
Yeah, Hippolytus of Rome. Where he's like, oh, there's like one God in three persons, but completely ignoring, once again, is in the analogy of the fountain and the stream.
Mm-hmm.
Completely ignoring that. Completely ignoring how what he's saying, that the way he defined a separate God means that they are separate essence from each other. So they're not. So they're playing this word game to not actually understanding what they teach.
Right. So I want to share one last quote here before we go on, because this is so. This is again. This is Pierre Beatrice, and he says that. So he goes through and he reads. He quotes the Egyptian pagan doctrines. Okay. Um, and he says that the similarities between these Egyptian oracles and the Christian doctrine of the Trinity, the incarnation and the virgin birth of the Son Logos, are so striking as to arouse suspicion that they might be only apologetic forgeries fabricated with the aim of artificially demonstrating the harmony between pagan wisdom and Christian revelation. What he's saying here is that they're the same doctrines. They're so close in parallels, so close in teachings and ideas and concepts, that it's tempting to say, well, the Egyptian the Egyptian writings are forgeries meant to mimic Christianity. He's saying that, rather than the other way around. This is where the problem is because it actually, Christianity mimics the Egyptian paganism. This is where this is where the Trinity comes from, is Egyptian paganism, comes from Gnosticism. It didn't exist within Christianity in the Bible. So when
we literally see once again how Gnostics is able to mold its theology for whatever way it needs to see fit.
yes,
And that's and
so
that's and that's a very powerful. That's why Gnosticism is such a powerful. It doesn't need to be a full, just a single set of ideas. It just needs to able to morph to whatever shape it needs to do in order to promote the essence remains the same, but um, basically the core remains the same, but the verses or the externalities are different. You just kind of like
mhm,
you just kind of shapes whatever you need to shape to maintain the core ideas.
right. Um, yeah, and that's exactly what happened. You know, we can see Gnosticism. We can see these heresies everywhere now. Once you start finding them, once you start looking for them, you see them everywhere. So let's jump into Tertullian and see how he addresses these things, because this is all relevant to especially this coming chapter, chapter 19, which uh, we were going to get into last week, but ran out of time. So Praxeas is quoting Isaiah. Praxeas is quoting that I am God and there is none other beside me, right? And he who shows us that he is the only God, but in company with his Son, who stretches out the heavens alone. This is how Tertullian demonstrates this: is that um, that you don't need, if you're going to mention the sun, you don't need to mention the rays that come from the sun. You don't need to mention the heat that comes from the sun. If you mention the sun, that automatically goes into our brains as something that is related to the sun, the big ball of plasma in the sky, right? So if you're talking about the sun, everything that goes along with the sun is what we think about the sun. That's called the characteristics and attributes, or the nature of the sun, of what that big ball of plasma is. So when we mention God, as in Isaiah 44:20, Isaiah, sorry, Isaiah 44, verse, is it 5? I don't know. I don't remember which. Anyway, he says that, I am God and there's none other beside me. But that is not saying that there's no other gods beside him. He's saying that's a matter of incomparability. There's none other who match me, none other with my glory and rank. And so we see here that Tertullian's God is completely different from the Egyptian God and the Gnostic God, who later, you know, uh, who from this homoousios God. And so when we get into 19 here, do you have?
And
Because
and
I
and,
basically.
and it's just to highlight a point. Isaiah 45 is quoted against us, the LDS Church, all the bloody time
Mm-hmm.
as a way to disprove or believe that there are two separate beings, two separate gods. And yet, Tertullian is using Isaiah 45 against the Gnostics, saying, guess what? They're they're one in purpose. They're unity. It's like they're
Mm-hmm.
literally using it against the modalists the same way the modalists, the Trinity are using it, or the modalists against us,
Yeah.
which is which is so ironic how the Trinitarian are using the same modalist arguments against us, while saying they're nothing like modalism.
Right. Exactly. They're using the modalist arguments to condemn us, who we're like Tertullian, and Tertullian is trying to defend against these verses, but it's the modalists who are quoting these verses. So if you are quoting Isaiah 5 or 45:5, and you're trying to use that to say, well, there's only one God, you are a modalist. I'm sorry, there's no other way to say it. You are a modalist. If you are quoting Isaiah 45:5 in to try to condemn us for our beliefs, you are a modalist, just like Praxeus.
Yes, and another thing that we have to keep in mind, I know I said it multiple times, is using the two-power doctrine, basically saying that the reason that Jesus is able to do those things because he received the authority from the Father. It is as if there is only one God, the monarchy of God, but it is as if that Jesus has the same authority of the Father. So we have to keep in mind it seems so contradictory in our mindset to say like, how can it be two gods in one sense and one God in another sense? They're literally seen as a duality of existence. Like, yeah, in one sense, it is sort of normal there is only one God because the Father is the source of all divinity. He's the source of authority. Jesus is only able to do what he's able to do because because he received that authority. He's doing the will of the Father. He received that authority. He's from the Father, and he's doing what the Father wants him to do.
Right.
It is as if there's only one will and
So,
purpose, that kind of thing.
yes. So let's go ahead and just start reading in uh, against Praxeus, because it comes back to the Gnosticism. This is why I wanted to go over the Gnosticism first, is because it goes back to this. It says, but this very declaration of his they will hastily pervert into an argument of his singleness. I have, says he, stretched out the heaven alone. There's nobody beside me. Undoubtedly, Tertullian replies, alone as regards to all other powers. And thus he gives a premonitory evidence against the conjectures of heretics who maintain that the world was constructed by various angels and powers, who also make him the creator himself to either be an angel or some sort of subordinate agent sent to form external things, such as the constituent parts of the world, but who was at the same time ignorant of the divine purpose. Who is he condemning here? He's condemning the Gnostics. He's condemning the demiurge. Now, he's not saying that there's not this external agent. He's not just saying, there can't be an external agent. It's the external agent that is ignorant of the divine purpose. The demiurge that the Gnostics believed in was a screw up. And here he's arguing against the screw up. Because he says, he says elsewhere, he says, that there's one who sends and one who's sent. Right. So if you're the sender, then you're God, you're the Father. If you're the sender, if you're the one who's sent, you're the Son. He says that elsewhere in the same document. So he's not arguing against having the creation performed by the Son. He's saying that it's the creation being performed by an ignorant or a screw up of a creator.
Now, I did write in my notes saying that it could also mean pagan because the pagans do believe that each being has a separate essence will they're separate from each other, they're not one in unity. That's one of the biggest criticism throughout this entire document is that pagan is that yeah they're brilliant two beings, but they do not believe that the essence Jesus' essence is from the Father. It is they're like have their own separate divine essence.
Mm-hmm.
And and then and I was thinking earlier of uh, um, I want to know if in their time did they believe like why did they believe that the pagans gods had their own separate essence? Like, the two talk about like how the pagan gods were able to procreate and they beget from each other, but at the same time they're not sharing the same essence. I wonder why they're making that, why he believes that, where that idea comes from, and does he also believe the same thing that when we procreate, our essence gets separated from our children? Like argue no, it's not because we're still like DNA. Like if I use like DNA wise, like we're still sharing the same DNA with our
Right.
offspring. We're still like we're not there's not somehow like completely different species from us. We're still sharing the same species. The question is it also true for the pagan gods? Anyways, that's
Yeah.
that's just a little note that I just kind of want the point that's just worthy to actually consider to actually think about or find evidence for and whatnot. Just
Okay. So he continues on, and this is where he's talking about the separate agent. Um, he says, if now it is in this sense that he stretches out to heaven alone, how is it that these heretics assume their position so perversely as to render inadmissible the singleness of that wisdom which says, when he prepared the heaven, I was present with him? Even though the apostle speaks or asks, who has known the mind of the Lord and who has been his counselor? Meaning, of course, to accept that wisdom which is present with him. In him, at any rate, and with him, did wisdom construct the universe. Now, we've gone over this again. He created or he produced the wisdom. The Father produced the wisdom. The wisdom is now a separate entity from him who has his own mind, his own will, his own garb, his own form, and he is a separate being um, from who the Father is. So this is what, but they're together in unity. They're not the same blob. They are separate entities now. This is the difference. This is the difference between Tertullian and the Gnostics and the Egyptian pagans. They are not homoousios. They are not the same existence.
now, I do want to point something out. Like I know this goes a little bit outside of this, but it just shows how like ancient Israel can have like it can read a scripture and can have like different meanings to it. Like they
Mm-hmm.
have like, multiple meaning into it. In one sense, you can use that scripture as a way to say is talking about Jesus. It was also used to talk about Ashira, the wife of Elohim, and and that's what Sophia wisdom. It was saying that this is what this was she represented, and that he gave birth to Jesus. That's an interpretation I came across somewhere, and I don't remember where I got it from, but I did remember seeing it.
Okay. Well, Ashira was there too. She was, part of
And,
the. She's part of the administration.
yeah,
She's
Ashira, like Ashira, for those who doesn't know, is according to ancient Judaism, before during the first temple period, she was the wife of Elohim,
yes.
aka Heavenly Mother. At the second temple period, the Jews basically cut her off and literally focused like this like the whole like, a single temple worship in Jerusalem was is actually known as the I'm forgetting the actual the Josiah reform.
Josephus. Oh no, the
Uh,
Josiah's reform.
the Josiah reforms, yeah. And basically, they edited the Bible to basically push Asherah out. Basically, really focus on the Jerusalem temple as the sole focus of the worship, which I find very interesting the fact that the Josiah reforms kind of took place around like the whole Babylon era was also
Hmm.
the same time that the Book of Mormon, uh, not Nephi, oh, I forget, Lehi, was commanded to
Hmm.
leave Babylon to bring scripture, which allowed them to have temples
Hmm.
in a new continent, which which was a big criticism that Protestant loves to use. It's like you can't have temples in the new world. It's only it can be only a single temple. Yet, because of the because we know that the Josiah reforms was basically the just being an apostasy, proves that the authenticity of the Book of Mormon, saying that well, technically the Jews in the ancient world did believe in the multiple temples. It was okay. It was because the Jews became in apostasy, they rejected the light of God, that they basically created this one temple dogma. Just a something to a side little
Yeah,
note
it
on fact.
just kind of further what you're talking about is that the Josiah reforms, they were sola scriptura. They
Yeah,
were, let's take these scriptures and we can only follow these scriptures. Lehi and Jeremiah, they were revelatory. They're like, no, we need to follow what God says. We are prophets. You need to follow what God says because He's the sola uh, deity. I mean, He's the sola word, where the word comes from. That without God, you don't have any scripture. So He says we need to follow scripture. Lehi was a prophet, and so he prophesied. But hang on, so Lehi took with him the Heavenly Mother. And in fact, if you look at the Aztecs and their religion, they had a Heavenly Mother. They had a creator pair, and they had a son, and his name was Quetzalcoatl. So Quetzalcoatl, or the creator pair, the main the male and female, that's where it eventually corrupted and turned into Mother Nature, and why Mother Nature is so strong among the natives.
yeah. I can start a whole conversation on that topic.
Oh
So
yeah, yeah.
I just gonna leave it at that. And
but
just
but this is all comes back to Tertullian and this idea of the Sophia who was with him, the wisdom
yeah,
who was with him. Sophia is wisdom in Greek, so Sophia. So we have the wisdom here. Uh, Tertullian is interpreting the wisdom as the Son. All right, so he's saying accept wisdom. In Proverbs 8:30, he says in him, or he says that the wisdom that was present with him, in him at any rate, and with him did the wisdom construct the universe. He not being ignorant of what she was making. Except wisdom, however, in this phrase is the same sense exactly as except the Son, who is Christ, the wisdom and the power of God. So, yeah, it's all kind of related here. We have we believe in a heavenly mother, and they are one the same way that the Son is one with
yeah.
God.
Unfortunately, we don't know much about the Heavenly Mother because actually look it up.
Hmm.
We know that Joseph Smith talked to women about Heavenly Mother, but we have no record what he said to them.
Right.
That's a,
We have a belief that she exists. We have no beliefs about her. So yeah,
I just
which is
like
yeah.
I just infer my beliefs about her is that I just infer what was the purpose of what women on the earth will be the same purpose when in heaven. I kind of like just infer it, but anyways, I kind of believe also like modern nature and all that is actually I do believe this is actually reflection of her role and all that. Anyways, that's a side thing, not really important.
Yeah, well, it comes back. So, um, but this is where it gets really interesting. Is this next section here? Do you have anything so far? Are we covering everything you wanted to cover?
Oh, I'm actually waiting for you. Um, like basically, if you go from if now all the way to long minister to the Father's work, like basically that whole section. I'm just waiting for you to read that whole section, and then I'm going to say something.
Okay. Yeah, because I thought that this is interesting here. He says, uh, by thus, let's see, where'd it go? By thus attaching the Son to himself, he becomes his own interpreter. In what sense he stretched out the heavens alone, meaning alone with his Son, even as he is one with the Son. I thought this was interesting. He attached himself. Because when we go to Origen, Origen is the one who says that the Son was created, the Son of God was created, and he was the first to attract to himself divinity. Which there's this idea of attachment, right? When you're attached to something, like Velcro, if you're attached or attracted, you attract something. It means that you didn't have it before. You didn't have whatever is given it to you afterward. You have it afterward. You don't have it before. So if the Son was existed and he didn't have any power, he had to be attached to God before he had this power. We see this idea here. So the utterance, therefore, will be like manner of the sons. I have stretched out the heavens alone, because by the word were the heavens established. So he says that the Son is who created the universe. He created the heavens. And of course, back then they didn't know what the universe was compared to what we know it is today. But so the heavens were created. So inasmuch then as the heavens were prepared when wisdom was present in the word, and since all things were made by the word, it is quite correct to say that even the Son stretched out the heavens alone, because he alone ministered to the Father's work. It must also be he who says, I am the first, and to all futurity I am. The Word, no doubt, was before all things. In the beginning was the Word. So here he's quoting back to John 1:1, and he's saying that there's two here. There's two beings here, two gods. I put gods in quote. In the beginning was the Word, and in that beginning he was sent forth by the Father. The Father, however, has no beginning, as proceeding from none, nor can he be seen, nor can he be seen. He has no beginning, he proceeds from none, nor can he be seen, since he was not begotten. He who has always been alone could never have order or rank. That's huge. The Father, who has always been alone, could neither have order nor rank. Think about this here.
Yeah.
When we say they are co-eternally co-equal, there's rank there. You can't. He doesn't have rank because he was alone. This again, this right here, this.
Oh. Okay, now I get where you are. You are way down there.
Oh yeah.
I was looking at my notes. I was reading. I was like, where the hell are you? Now it's like, okay. I'll finish. I wanted you finish what you're saying there. Then.
So
then,
yeah. There's no co-equality or co-eternality here. It's God. The Father was alone. That's not co-eternal, and he doesn't have a rank, meaning they're not co-equal.
Yeah. It also says that Jesus came into existence. So not only was they're not co-eternal, well, again, you said they're not co-eternal. If it's
Mm-hmm.
not co-eternal, guess what? Tertullian was Proto-Arian.
Proto-Aryan.
Now,
Yes.
now, I will argue that the difference between Arius and Tertullian was that, like, Tertullian would say that Jesus had a similar essence, a substance. So, like, that's what we're talking about. What Arius
He was
thought.
a thought in God's mind. This is what Tertullian believed he was a thought in God's mind,
Mind, and then came into existence. But
and then
I'll just
came
say
into existence.
Arius will say that Jesus was created ex nihilo. Like,
Yes.
well, according to what we're told about from the Athanasius and all the Trinitarian, what they said about Arius, we have no record of what Arius said, so we can
We,
just take. So we
you're
can only
absolutely
go by.
Yeah, you're absolutely right, because Arius could have believed what Tertullian believed. They could have believed
Yes.
the exact same thing.
Yeah.
So
Could
there's
have.
a lot of
because
criticisms
because
against Arius.
because what I do know, very versatile, and it's like there's a two-part lecture about the Trinity. In the second part, he argues that that the whole Trinity, the whole like heresy started, like the whole Arian heresy started because Arius accused Athanasius of modalism,
Mm-hmm.
and that's how the whole debate started. So the question is, but it also applies of what like, there's also the whole debate of a homotheist and homoiousiast or whatever the second I. But
Mm-hmm.
the question is, do we actually know what he actually taught?
Yeah. Do we know that he didn't believe like Tertullian does, where the Son was eternal, but not eternally the same way? That there was still, a creation of some kind where he was uh, proceeded forth out of God's mind into becoming the wisdom. This is what was taught. So,
Yeah.
you know,
Yeah. So,
Arius could have believed that, it was um, ex nihilo at that time, that he was just created.
it could also be actually, like I'm just saying either possibility could be true. But the
Yeah.
reason the reason I'm saying is because we know how Trinitarian will forge documents to fit their ideology,
Yep.
and they will lie about whatever. So I never truly trust what any Trinitarians say unless I have the physical evidence of what. So like, basically I take it a grain of salt. That's what I'm saying.
Yes.
So going okay. So is there anything else you want to say here
Well,
before I take
yeah,
over?
to continue on, I mean, it says, therefore, if they have determined that the Father and the Son must be
Okay.
regarded as one and the same, for the express purpose of vindicating the unity of God, that the unity he is preserved, that the unity of his is preserved intact, for he is one, and yet he has a Son who equally with himself comprehended the same in Scripture, since they are unwilling to allow that the Son is a distinct person with his own mind and will, with his own separate form, second from the Father, not in, so they are not co-equal,
Yeah.
lest being thus second he should cause two gods to be spoken of. We have shown above that two are actually described in Scripture as God and Lord. He's basically saying two gods, but he's not calling them two gods. He's saying there's a God and there's a Lord. It's two gods in a sense, but it's God and Lord,
Oh,
because we don't, because they're
actually,
one.
I was listening to uh William Mouse. Like I was going through his lecture again,
Mm-hmm.
uh, and at one point he they talk about the word Lord. he was saying that is actually just a when you just ask Lord is actually he says just like a mistranslation because in Greek is actually God.
Okay.
So it is so he's referencing when he said the Lord, you literally say it is actually God, but not the God. We're just saying that it's like the Lord is like is more than just simply like just a person alone. No, it was a God, some sort of divinity attached to it. That was something I was found very interesting when he said that, and I want to get more into like as I learn as I continue learning more the Greek language and learning the words and all of that. I'm going to keep an eye on that and really see what like again just showing the translation where there's a lot of stuff that we're missing in our translations.
Yeah. There's a lot. So he goes on. He says to prevent Praxeas from being offended at this fact that there is God and Lord. Says there are two gods here. He says we give a reason why they're not said to be two gods and two lords, but they are two as Father and Son, and this by severance of their substance, and not by severance of their substance, but from the disposition wherein we declare the Son to be undivided and inseparable from the Father, distinct in degree, not in state. And although when named apart he is called God, he does not thereby constitute two gods, but one. And that from this very circumstance that he is entitled to be called God from his union with the Father. So he's saying exactly the same thing that Origen does. He says, when you're afraid to call them two gods, you fall into error.
Yeah.
He recognizes that they're two gods, but we don't preach two gods. This is the same with LDS theology, with what Joseph Smith said. He said that, they're two gods, but we don't preach two gods. We recognize that they're two gods. We understand that they're two gods, but they're one, the same way that my wife and I are one flesh.
Yeah. And yes, and I do want to go back earlier. I know where I'm going a little bit
Yeah.
off point.
So I finished. So you can.
Yeah. Did did I?
You want me to search for it?
No, okay. This was a very interesting. Okay. Okay. So actually, what I written. This is very important to understand how there can be multiple gods in one sense, but in other there isn't. There's also the fact that the Father is the sort of all divinity. That being that being said, there is one issue that we're going to address is regards to of the other's beauty. This is because of how we became the fathers of the next generation. The issue is something
Okay.
that I don't think the
Hang
generation.
on. So, okay. Where are you reading?
Okay, I'm actually reading my own notes here.
Oh, you're reading your own notes. Okay.
Yeah. So so I'm here basically saying that this I'm basically saying that yes, we're talking about as you said, it can be like in one sense we can say there are two gods and one god. I'm also saying that yeah, we can especially say there's it's important to describe how there can be multiple gods, and in another sense there is um, there's only one. Now I am tying that back to the audience belief about how we became the father and we become as far as the father. What um, what I'm saying is basically a reference to deification. Um, is that we have the same power of creation of the father because we're saved through the Father. We only have the power to of creation for the next cycle and whatnot. Is because the Father through Christ give us authority, just like the Father gives the authority to Jesus. Jesus will grant that same authority to us, but ultimately that authority comes from the Father. So it's just like again, there's like one. In a sense, there's like can be multiple people acting as the same authority, but the source is always the Father.
Hmm.
Does that make sense? So even though we can't say that we can create, like we have the same power of creation as it were the Father itself. In one sense, yes, we are. In another sense, no, we're not, because we're still following the wheels of the Father that is before us. And basically, uh, we are divine because we're sharing the same will as the Father.
Hmm.
Now, I just now going, I just leave it at that. Now, going back to earlier of the same chapter, I'm going to read the whole thing. Then I'm going to say my spiel. If not, it is in the sense that he stretches out the heaven alone. How is it? How is it that these heretics assume their position so purposely as to render inadmissible the singleness of the wisdom which says, "When he prepared the heaven, I was present with him." Proverbs 8:27. Even though the apostle asked, "Who has known the mind of the Lord, and who has been his counselor?" Romans 11:34. Meaning, of course, except that wisdom which was present with him. Proverbs 8:30. In him at any rate, and with him, the wisdom construct the universe. He did not ignorant of what she was making. Except wisdom, however, is a phrase the same says exactly the same to the Son, who is Christ, the wisdom of the power of God. First Corinthians 1:24, according to the apostle, who only knows the mind of the Father. But who knows? But who knows the things that be in the God, except the Spirit which is in him. First Corinthians 2:11. Not necessarily without him, there was therefore one who caused God to be not alone, except alone from all of the gods. But if we're to follow the heretics, the gospel itself, were to be rejected because it tells us that all things were made by God to do without whom nothing was being made. Basically, this is just I just want to keep referencing this. When I read this whole passage, I just finished like listening to Jake Dyer debate with um, the Muslim metaphysician, and I
I
was
gotta listen to that. I gotta listen to that.
yeah, and I will say that there's a lot of okay. So first off, I'm going to say that I'm not as familiar with Islam or Judaism, and it's something I'm really going to get into. However, Jake the Muslim, they were talking about as if there's only one God, um, and he's talking about like, the God has to boot, like, all kinds of like stuff I never heard before. I was confused a lot, but but from what I remember, this passage of what Tertullian is saying, it will refuse Islam understanding that there is only one God. There has to be another agent of creation. So, so, um, so yeah, it's just, um, so yeah, I just wanted to kind of point that out.
Yeah. Uh,
It's kind of like
so,
yes. Right now we're kind of focusing on Trinitarianism, but again, Islam. Like I said, I'm no expert. It is something I've been really want to really understand their belief. But from what I understand, they're basically saying that, oh yeah, there's only one God, but any body parts is just a metaphor for something. I'm
right.
according, like I could completely misunderstand what Jedi was saying. No, not Jedi, but I mean,
Jake Brentella,
uh,
Brent
uh,
Breckentella.
yeah, Jake the Muslim. They both actually. That's what Jedi and Jake are very similar names. But anyways, so but I could be completely missing on what he was saying about what he said about the boot and all that. but it seems like there's talking about as if that like, oh yeah, those things are just like metaphors. They're not actually real body parts. Um, but yet, all those passages where he talks about Sophia and all of those things, it kind of like goes against their belief of like how can God can could possibly be only one agent in the universe.
Yeah.
And I know Judaism, and I know in Judaism, they really try to emphasize there is only one God. There is no like that's why going back to two power heresy. Well, like as in a seagull, the entire point he wrote that book. He was the modern day Jews believed that there's only one God and there was no other power that was alongside of him. So so it is something worthy to consider consider that these passages that clearly highlights how they are multiple gods. And I do know the reason that the Jews basically fought so hard about the two powers is because the Christian was using it as a way to say, here is your Messiah.
Mm-hmm.
And the Jews rejected their Messiah.
Mm-hmm. That's
And
very
we
true.
know, and we know that the Masoretic text, which is what the King James, like, for those who doesn't know about the critical textual criticism and all of those things, uh, there's multiple different like um, manuscripts that we use and to try to kind of recreate the Bible. What we base the Western world would have based the Old Testament was called the Masoretic text, which was written in 1000 AD. We know for a fact that the Jews tempered the Old Testament that removed any mentions of the Messiah to basically try to say, to basically denounce Christianity, saying that Jesus has come. So that's another evidence how the Bible was corrupted.
Yeah, and we have absolute evidence of that. Michael Heiser goes into a great depth on Deuteronomy 32:8, Deuteronomy chapter 32, verse 8, where he shows the changes from sons of God to sons of Israel, and that's a massive doctrinal change. When you're thinking of the sons of God, who God had sons, right? Compared to Israel, who had sons, it's a
And
completely different
the
theology.
reason they were, and the reason they were that he did that, they were doing that. It was because the Christian was using that. Here is an evidence as to why Jesus was the Son of God.
Mm-hmm.
He's Messiah. He's the second power. He came in the world. They didn't like it, so they tried to remove it. Which again, coming back against the process how they try to distance themselves when when the Jewish rabbi, I think it was like around like the second century, they were like, no, we reject this true power doctrine, and they try to fight it against it, and they're not able to keep it up, and then um, and then you have this whole mess being created afterwards,
Right.
which I will argue that uh, probably will be the first steps where they started tampering the text, and we have records by the early Christian fathers say you Jews have tampered the text. We know we know you removed this and this from the text. Our record is different. So we know the process of them tampering was happening for a good 1,000 years. And the reason that we got that the Western world uses the Masoretic text was because of Jerome, if I remember correctly, who basically created Latin Vulgate, and he thought that let's go back to the Jews and use their manuscripts as a way to build our manuscripts uh, to our Old Testament, and that's how we inherited all those things about the Old Testament, all of those things.
Okay, I don't know where, because I know that the Masoretic text is a 10th century document. So it was created basically 1,000 years after Christianity. I don't think that the Jerome used the Hebrew, but I mean it's possible. But
Oh, no, no,
it
no,
was
no, no, no,
Latin.
no. It is actually recorded that when he wanted to create his own like when he created the Latin Vulgate, he actually went to the Jews and make his copy from them. It's actually because he thought that it was
Well,
the most accurate. We actually recorded him saying that.
what I mean by that is that his record then would precede the Masoretic text by hundreds of years. So that would be an early attestation to the Old Testament, which I'm kind of questioning because they did have the Septuagint, and the Septuagint was a Greek Old Testament even before Jesus was born. And Tertullian, he
Yeah,
had the Greek Septuagint. That's what he used. He quotes the Greek Septuagint. So the Greek Septuagint is even a different translation. So uh,
but
I,
more than we use the Masoretic text, but I know for a fact that when he went to the Latin, he did not use the Septuagint. He did not use it.
okay.
He went to use the Hebrew. It
So
might
it
not
would
be
be
the Masoretic
interesting then.
text.
It would be interesting comparing things like Deuteronomy 32:8 and find out how early that corruption took place. Did the corruption
Yeah.
take place by the time the Latin Vulgate came out? So anyway, interesting. Have to
Yeah.
look more into that. Okay.
Anyways,
Anything else in chapter
that's
19?
nope. That's it.
Awesome. Okay, we can move on. And then so we already discussed chapter 20 because Praxeus used the same scriptures that Trinitarians use against us to show that they were
Yep.
one. So if you're quoting these scriptures, if you're quoting Isaiah to try to show that they are one against us, you are arguing modalism. You are a modalist.
Yep.
Chapter
So
21.
okay. So before we start getting into chapter 21, I'm going to. Okay. So this is where chapter 21, 22, 23. He used, like as I said before, he uses dialectics to make his argument. And I want and a lot. So the best way to understand dialectics, because I know the last time that we talked about dialectics was back in chapter 1, so like way back then. So just a real refresher to what it is. Basically, I'm actually currently rereading Das Capital, and what Marx is doing in the first chapter of Das Capital, he's analyzing what is a commodity or what's the term of value, and he's basically making all kinds of counter argument around it to try to truly define what is a value, what is a commodity. It's kind of like you pick like two like a, one you want a one concept, then you pick a different concept, and that is kind of like in the opposite direction, and you try to merge them and try to get a conclusion out of this. That is what he's doing over here, where he's like, okay, let's truly understand what does the word was God, what actually meant. So he's literally analyzing every possible outcome of what it could have possibly mean.
So basically, if I'm understanding you correctly, he takes a word and defines that word, and he takes another word and he defines that word, so that we have no misunderstanding when he puts the two words together.
It's sort of. He wants to define one word. But what about this? There's something that contradicts. Like let's okay, so basic an easy example. The difference between, let's say, in a worker and a business owner. What there are two different there's two different type of people. Let's analyze all the different things that happens in the relationship between these two groups of people and see what happens as you extrapolate those meanings. Because, and you try to find and you try to kind of get all the different possible outcome as you try to kind of analyze those relationships.
Gotcha.
Does that
So
make sense?
you're defining a word, and you're showing all of the ways that word can be used.
Exactly.
Okay.
Because a lot of people would try to say that Marxist the libertarian value only means a certain way. The value under Marx only means certain. No, it doesn't, because the Marx will define values in multiple different ways. He actually will define value in the same way is the subjective theory of value, where you have like the whole market and market and
Okay.
supply, and making an equilibrium.
So
You will define
what
value.
word here is that Tertullian using that we're defining, or what idea or concept is Tertullian defining, and how all the different ways that is being used. So
Exactly.
yeah,
And this is why he's so meaty, because he's literally trying to define over here. In this passage, there's like a lot of time we say the word of God or the Son of God.
and
He's trying to define what those words actually mean in all possible area.
because he says words matter, and he's actually these next four chapters are just they are. He goes through so many verses. This man, he knew his Bible. I mean, he was like, oh my gosh, he quotes
Yeah,
verse
exactly,
after verse after verse. So
exactly. And this is why I'm stopping here, because I wanted to really emphasize what is he doing, why he's like it seems like repeating himself. Is
mhm.
not, because he's trying to really define the concept in every single possible way to really understand what scripture was truly saying. That's a very key point that we have to think as we continue. And I think Origin will do the exact same thing. Like, this kind of philosophy was like this Greek philosophy it was something that
Well,
the early Christian was familiar with
mhm.
to analyze the world. So some people were against it. Some, like Tertullian, was using it to argue for the gospel.
Yeah, it's basically so making it so that you cannot mistake what he's talking about.
Yeah,
When you're going over it, you're
exactly,
repeating it over and over from different points of view. You're attacking the argument, or you're explaining the argument from various perspectives and different points of view. There's no way you can misunderstand what he's saying.
exactly. And it might seem contradictory for our mind, because 2 days we just want to, here's your concept, what is your argument, here's your conclusion. We don't
Mm-hmm.
like to try to kind of, let's expound it, let's try to kind of like try to analyze it in all different angles. We don't think like this today. It's like kind of is I guess our we don't like to really expand things. We just want to be short, concise, to the point.
Yep.
That is not what he's doing. Actually, I'm just wondering, me explaining this does actually literally make sense what he's actually doing now. Yeah, I thought you like it.
Okay. So let's just do you want to? We've only got 20 minutes left, um, but he quotes again
Trying it.
John 1:1. He's using this
Trying
verse
it.
over and over again, and he's not using it um, to explain how they're one God. He does not use John 1:1 to show that they are one God. He shows over and over how they are separate. So if
Yeah.
you're using John 1:1 to try to show that they're one God, you are a modalist. Don't do it.
Yep. Consider, therefore, how many passages present their prescription authority to you in this very gospel before this inquiry of Philip, previous to any discussion of your part. And first of all, there comes at once the preamble of John to his gospel, which shows us what he previously who was at the become flesh. In the beginning was the Word, and the Word was with God, and the Word was God. And it was in the beginning with God. All things were made by him, and without him nothing was made. Now, since these words may not have been taken otherwise than as they are written, there is without a doubt shown to be one who was from the beginning, and one who was with whom he was, and one the word of God. The other
Yep.
God, although the Word is also God, but God regarded as the Son of God, not as the Father, one through whom were all things, another by whom were all things. But in but
So hang on.
in what we
Let's
call,
go back over this here. Let's discuss this because
and
this is important.
I'm actually just two more sentences and I have my break.
Okay.
But in what sense we call him another, we have already often described in that we call him another. We must need imply that he is not identical indeed, yet not as separate, other by dispensation, not by division. There we go. That's my break.
Okay. Yeah. So let's go back over this. He says that
Yeah.
there is without doubt shown to be one who was from the beginning, and also one with whom he always was. So the one who was from the beginning is the Father. The one he
Yep.
was with is the Son. One, the Word of God. So one is the Word of God, the other, God. So although the Word was also God, but God also regarded as the Son of God, not as the Father. So he's saying there are two separate beings here in John 1:1. You can only
Yep.
be with another separate being. You cannot be with yourself. And he's saying that you can't be with yourself. You have to be with someone else. You have to be with another being, another thinking being. I mean, uh, if I'm just with my puppet, right, this doesn't make sense. I'm just, if it was just me and my puppet, I'm just with myself, right? But my puppet's not real. I mean, my puppet is real. It's a real puppet, but it doesn't have its own mind. You and I, we are with each other on this call. We have separate minds, separate wills, separate beings, separate everything. Basically, the only thing we share are human nature. But our human nature uh, isn't what he's talking about here. He's not just saying that there's two separate natures, or they're just the same God nature. That's not what he's saying here. He's saying there's two separate beings and two separate gods, just like we're two separate humans. We are two separate human beings, two separate humans, two separate and individual beings. This is the way he's describing John 1:1.
Yeah, because exactly, it's like he's just separate, like because he's just saying, as I said, it's like there's like two being. In one sense, there's two gods. In another sense, there is one God. That's what this whole argument is saying.
Mm-hmm.
Like you cannot, as I said, you cannot be with someone if you're the same being.
Mm-hmm.
It's not possible. So again, as you were saying earlier, if you're quoting John 1:1 as a way to provide as a sort to the Trinity, you're arguing like a modalist.
Yep.
That's that is the that is a short version of it. It's like
It
it's like
is. You are quoting it like Praxeus.
yeah, and it is absolutely devastating for Trinitarian.
Mm-hmm.
Okay,
Okay.
so
He,
next, okay,
he, therefore, who became flesh was not the very same as he who from the Word came. His glory was beheld, the glory of the only begotten of the Father. Not, observe, as of the Father he declared, but what was in the bosom of the Father alone. The Father did not divulge the secrets from his own bosom, for this is preceded by another statement: no man has seen God at any time. Then again, he
okay,
is designated
stop,
by
no, no,
John
no,
the
no,
Baptist
stop
as
it,
the Lamb of
no,
God.
no, no,
Okay.
stop it here, stop it here. Um, I wanted to. I wrote this is what I wrote. I only wanted to stop here because it is a very interesting statement by Tony Up. He's declaring that Jesus was only a portion of the Father's divinity, and if he only came from the bosom of the Father, but at the same time the Father did not give the Son the secret of the bosom, then it means that Jesus is one inferior to the Father, and two, Jesus as a portion of the Father's divinity, which is why you can say that if you have seen me, you have seen the Father, making a basically declaring his divinity.
Mm-hmm.
So basically, it's like actually is that argument I just said is actually going to change a little bit later. But the point is that you can, um, well, actually, technically, no, because it's in one sense it's actually true. But the point is still saying Jesus is not the full mass globe as we're talking about
Right.
with the whole not
The
Augustine, but
blob.
the blob, the Trinitarian, what not Augustine, why uh, Constantine. There we go. Constantine using the homotheist saying that there are this one massive blob, homotheist.
Mm-hmm.
This is like it'll be like, oh yeah, we're just taking a portion of this blob and it's not out of the Father. It's you can't square a hole there. It's not possible. Again, the Trinity also gets refuted.
Yep.
Continue.
Okay. Then again, he is designated by
Then,
John the Baptist as the Lamb of God. He is not described as himself, the same with him of whom he is the beloved Son. So he's not described as being with himself. Okay. He is described
yeah,
as being separate. He is no doubt ever the Son of God, yet not he himself of whom he is the Son. So he's trying to, it's kind of alluded, he's kind of got a weird way of saying it, but he's not his own son, basically. This divine relationship, Nathaniel at once recognized in him, even as Peter did on another occasion, "You are the Son of God." And he affirmed himself that they were quite right in their convictions. For he answered Nathanael, "Because I said I saw you under the fig tree, therefore you believe." And in the same manner he pronounced Peter to be blessed, inasmuch as flesh and blood had not revealed it to him, that he had perceived the Father, but the Father which is in heaven. By asserting all this, he determined the
No,
distinction.
no, stop it there. Stop it there.
Okay.
So I'm going to say this. I wanted to point out that we're not talking about the incarnation here. Now, usually, this is what Trinitarian to the hypostatic union. They say, yeah, there we go. This is only subordinate in his humanity. Nowhere in this sentence, Tertullian is even implying, oh, look, Jesus is only subordinate in his humanity here. He's
Mm-hmm.
like continuing with the idea that Jesus was subordinate in his pre-existence. Now he's just continuing his subordination and in his humanity. It's like this
And
continuous thought. There's no this
doing
like
the Father's will
magic
in all things.
in all things. It's like this is not this magical break that somehow things something changed because he became incarnate. No, it was the same thing it was before. Now it's the same thing after. It's there's no word game that's being done, and this debate was done ad nauseum about this whole like
Yeah, there's no
uh,
change in his subordination between humanity and
yeah.
his before he was in heaven. So,
Yeah,
yep,
yeah. It was, I meant to say, we talk ad nauseum that he just was subordinate in his pre pre-incarnation.
pre-incarnation.
Now, from now on, we're going to talk how Jesus was still being subordinate, but his thought is nowhere is nothing different than what as if there's nothing changed in his thought of like before and after the incarnation. It's all the
Right.
same time because it's logically consistent.
Yep. He's just always doing the Father's will. He did that in the pre-existence, and he did that in the incarnation. So, by asserting all
Yep.
this, he determined the distinction which is between the two persons. Now, Tertullian's persons are beings. He's saying that they are two separate beings. That is, the Son then on earth, whom Peter had confessed to be the Son of God, and the Father in heaven, who had revealed to Peter the discovery he had made, that Christ was the Son of God. When he entered the temple, he called it his Father's house, speaking as the Son. He addressed to Nicodemus, he says, God so loved the world that he gave his only begotten Son, that whosoever should believe in him should not perish but have everlasting life. John 3:16. And again, for God sent not his Son into the world to condemn the world, but that the world through him might be saved. He that believes in him is not condemned, but he that believes not is condemned already, because he has not believed in the name of the only begotten Son of God. John 3:16 or 3:17 and 18. Moreover, when John the
Okay,
Baptist,
okay. Stop it here. I want to break it and say that I want to point out that he's making the claim that the reason that Jesus was able to save that is like because he's the Son of God. He is um, because he's the Son of God. It doesn't mean that he's God himself. He's the Son
mm-hmm,
of God because he's begotten from the Father. He's like he's describing the reason that he has the authority that he's able to do is because he is from the Father. And
mm-hmm,
as such, his authority is from the Father, not that he himself is the Father. So the idea that if you try to say that Jesus is the Son of God is somehow somehow there is still said there's only one God, you still arguing like a modalist.
Hmm.
But by saying the Son of God, it means that you have a separate being. The Father and the Son are two separate beings. And just to say that Jesus is only supporting his human nature is a cop out.
Right. Yeah, and he goes on and on, about this kind of the same idea, um, that
Like, like,
the son while he's on earth is being subordinate, and he's separate, but it's just more of the same. It's more of the the pre-incarnation and the incarnation. It's the, yeah, I did do my father's will here, I did my father's will there. uh, One who was sent, the one who is the sender. They are, again, separate beings. So we are getting close. We got 5 minutes here, and we're not going to be able to finish this. But
no.
um, are there any last minute words you want to discuss and talk about as we kind of finish up here? Um,
Uh, well, it's it is such a part like a Tertullian. I know, like it's like I know we discussed this before about the people. Some Trinity would say, "Well, do you have to agree with everything that Tertullian um, said because he believes in ex nihilo?" And I'm like, no. The issue that you guys are trying to explain it away is clear anti-Trinitarian leaning, and yes, it's under subordinationism, very well fit in our theology. Ex nihilo is there's a lot of issue behind it. I'm not going to really hash it out last time.
mhm.
But the reason I brought this up again is that you still have lots of Trinitarian who tries to argue that Tertullian taught us like this essence and there's three persons, and which means he taught the Trinity. As we keep talking about, this is just a word concept fallacy.
Mhm.
We can, like, and this is why, at the beginning of every single podcast, I keep going back to the definition of the Trinity to really emphasize that there's no way in hell that Tertullian taught the Trinity. Anyone who says it does, they're lying to you.
Well, either that or they're extremely ignorant. I chalk it up to most of them are ignorant, and a few of
Oh
them
yeah, like,
who are smart enough are lying to the ignorant who just parrot the, you know.
yeah, yes, yes. The vast majority of people are agree with you. They just ignore it. Those who actually read it as words and still say it's Trinitarian, they're lying to you. That's
People like Sam Shamoon and inspiring philosophy,
yeah.
they say, oh yeah, they read Tertullian and they say this is the Trinity. No, they are absolutely lying. There's no
Yeah,
question about it. They're lying. They know better. They are trying to just um gain a following and appease their masses
and
because
and
they're not true
and
scholars.
and the, and the thing is about these people, so many Christians will just uncritically think that they're speaking
Hmm.
the truth.
Yep.
They just say they hear it, they think he's speaking the truth when they're just full face lying.
Hmm. Yep.
And this is and I know and I know this is a lot of we just repeat the same thing throughout this entire document of Tertullian. Just really emphasize that he's not a Trinitarian, but we're really showing that if you truly want to be intellectually honest, there's no way in hell we can ever argue that he was a Trinitarian. And
And,
and
and scholars
and
agree. I mean, scholar after scholar agrees. There's you will find very, very few scholars who even attempt to say that. So, well, anyway, thank you, Eric. Thanks for being here. And we actually ended up on time. So I'm going to go ahead and say goodbye.